Delegates, we have community school leaders gathered here from all over the country. Please welcome our panelists. Just wave your hand so they can see who you are as I introduce you. Catherine Gilmore from Florida. We have a student, Emma Alvarez, and we have a couple of others joining her from the same state. We have Grant Schuster and Cecily Meyer Cruz from California. We have Kelly McMahon from Iowa. We also have Mary Parr Sanchez from New Mexico. And we have Nikki Woodward from the great state of Maryland. So I just want to thank you all for joining me here this afternoon, and just 1,000 of your closest friends too. But it's just an intimate conversation. Don't be nervous about that. So Catherine, I want to start with you. So wow, streetlights, seriously? That made it. So are you telling these delegates that if they just get streetlights, if they do that, that'll solve everything? Is that the way community schools work?
So, hello everyone. Community schools is all about creating a change that's specific to the unique needs and the complex needs of your community. So each of you here comes representing a community in your town, your state, your region, and your needs are different than mine. And when we started the Community School Initiative in 2018-19, our goal was to address existing barriers. We all have existing barriers that have continued to plague our schools, and one of ours was attendance. So when we asked our questions to our parents, our students, our staff, and our community, we asked them with the intent of finding out what those deep needs are, what's happening in their community, and how we can create solutions. Through Community Schools Initiative and the great work that we've been able to create through the NEA model, we've been able to dig into those problems that are plaguing our community. And when we talked to 87% of our parents, only 2 voices told us about the need for streetlights because it's so dark coming to school. And what I want you to understand is it's the voice that matters. Community school gives a voice to every interest holder in our community. Some of those issues that nobody brings up because they're afraid that change won't happen occurs through community schools. We've been able to create lasting change with our attendance, which has impacted our learning. We've been able to create change in our community outside of our gates of our school, and these are opportunities that can happen in every one of our communities across the America.
Thank you so very much for sharing your own story, but inspiring our delegates to learn a little bit more about how they can bring community schools to their states and locals. So Cecily, UTLA has been leading on this issue of community schools for a long time, right? In fact, I think most of these folks know that UTLA actually went on strike, and this was one of the issues that you stayed on strike until you won, right? And so when you think about, you're a union leader. Can you talk to these other union leaders about why community schools are so important to your members in UTLA?
Well, thank you, Madam President. In 2014, we went taking over our union, and what we found were that our schools were absolutely devastated by mass privatization and decimated by years and decades of disinvestments. And the time was ripe for actual grassroots movement that would captivate and energize our schools and our school community. We needed to bring back hope and joy in our schools and outside of them. And that brings in the community schools model, an actual democratic model that includes every stakeholder. And so, to be clear, the community schools model is for every school across this nation, whether it be an urban, rural, suburban, or any school in between. It is the absolute antidote to privatization because community schools are the hub of the community. No two community schools are alike, and all stakeholders are engaged in this process. But we're not just asking about needs. We are also mining for assets. What are the community's assets? We have to ask that question because we want to have our babies experience absolute joy and a thriving place to grow and learn. And we believe that the folks that are the closest to the pain are the ones that are the closest to the solutions. And that, folks, are all of us. Every educator, every student, every parent in all of our communities. So we have to talk about the power of transformation. And UTLA did, in fact, go on strike for 9 days, not just for pay, but for something we call bargaining for the common good. Collectively working together with parents, students, and our full community, and we were able to win a memorandum of understanding with our district for community schools that established real collaboration and established a shared decision-making model for every community school. We believe so deeply in the community schools model because we recognize that the education system has been based on racism and it's not designed for our poor or BIPOC communities. It has been a neoliberal agenda, so let me explain that. It means that districts will say they are broke on purpose. They will create a crisis. They will starve our schools, and then they will blame us, the educators. We are seeing that play out across the nation. And folks, we are the ones we have been waiting for. And this is that model for us to have a thriving, joyful community inside and outside of our neighborhoods that we love for our babies. And so UTLA went on strike this March with our educator, ESP colleagues from SEIU Local 99, and we helped them overcome just an unsurmountable task, and they were able to do that. And in that power of collective action, we were also able to win community schools codified in our contract, as well as a 22.9 raise. It would not have happened without direct action. And let me tell you, across this nation, this is why community schools model should be in every district across this nation. And I ask that all of you join with us and our president to make community schools a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cecily. All right, you've heard it. What you gonna do? So, as always, we want to center the voice of our students. We want to hear from them what their experience is and what their ideas are. So, Emma, can you tell us how attending a community school has impacted you and what you've learned from other students, how it has impacted them?
Yeah, so I have just promoted from the 8th grade, and I will be attending high school this fall. So I'm very excited about that. But my junior high, Sycamore Junior High School, is a community school, as well as the high school I will be attending. And COVID was during my 6th grade year. So I came out of COVID starting in my 7th grade year. And I was virtual all of 6th grade year, so I had absolutely no idea what my junior life experience would be like. And, you know, it had a great outcome. The drastic change from my 7th grade year to my 8th grade year was big. When I started 7th grade year, I had the support from family, but I was still, you know, a little bit lost because I was a 5th grader. My last time I was in a school, in a classroom, and I'm a 7th grader. And I was asked to be a part of the community school site team. And I said yes, and I wanted to learn more about it. And at first, I had no absolute idea what my role was. But in the 8th grade, I learned a lot more. I was asked to be a part of the ribbon cutting, and I spoke. And from there, I was a new version of myself. I have done so many amazing things because of community schools. I felt empowered to become and to run for ASB president, and I did become ASB president for my 8th grade year. And I have done so much because of community schools. I get a say in what I want in my classroom, what I want to learn. I get to tell my teachers and to tell my peers what I see in my community and what I see in my neighborhood. And I think that that's what it should be for all across the nation. Students should speak up. Students should create relationships with their teachers and staff on their campus. Students should get the allowance to have a voice in what they want to learn. And, you know, my district, AUHSD from Anaheim, we do soapbox speeches, and students get to see get to speak up about what is happening in their community and something they're so passionate about. There was a student that spoke up about immigration. There was another student speaking about fast fashion. We have done so much with community schools and because of community schools. And community schools is a great opportunity for every student to feel like a little bit more like they're welcomed in their community and in their school. I have met so many people in my community, and, you know, when I sit on the district-wide steering committee for community schools, so my voice is the same as Grant's. My voice is the same as admin from our schools. My voice is the same as the parents. My voice is the same as the community partners. And I feel so special about it. And I think it is such a great thing for all students across the nation to have that, to feel like I have the same amount of voice as my principal, as my administrator, as my parent, as my friend, as the people I see in my community. And I think community schools is an amazing thing for students, and it should be all around.
Wow. That's gotta make you feel very powerful, doesn't it? Wow. Oh, Grant, I see that smile on your face. You're very proud, aren't you?
I am.
Grant, your state has invested $4.1 billion into community schools. Yeah, and I know that didn't just happen. That happened because the mighty CTA made it happen. So there's that. As folks listen to some of our panelists so far and what they've read and they've learned, you and your district have received funding to open 15 community schools. And as you think about your role as a union leader, what would you say to folks who are thinking about advocating for the starting of community schools and why it's important to take your time to do it right?
Good afternoon, NEA. 28-year middle school history teacher. Where are my middle school teachers out there? I have to say that listening is critical in building trust. We have to build that sort of trust. We actually, our local Anaheim Secondary Teachers Association, with the support of NEA, went out and engaged with our members and educated them. We built relationships with community partners, and then we went together to the district and said, we want to implement this sort of model. It's important to have all of those voices together at the table. We started by building a steering committee, and the steering committee included teachers, ESPs, parents, students, community groups, and our district. And we started building trust. We wrote the grant together, we wrote job descriptions together, we wrote down our charge together, and that started to build some trust between us. And so as we moved forward, we saw that we needed to learn about each one of our campuses individually, and that takes time. And so we set out a 5-month path for our teacher leads and our community school coordinators to sit down and talk with every teacher, every ESP, every facility worker, and then follow up the parent conversations and the student conversations with community voice circles and with one-on-one interviews. What we learned was invaluable about every individual site. You know, before community schools, the average parent participation rate in the district survey was about 15%, and it was lower than that at our community schools. We made it a goal to intentionally move forward with 75% as the minimum that we would accept, and we got that at every single one of our community schools. When we learned what we did about each of those campuses, we were able to bring it into the classroom. At Emma's site, we saw parents, students, and teachers with the theme of immigration going throughout all of their surveys. Parents did not understand what their rights were or what resources they had available to them. Students were anxious about their family's future, and teachers saw that reflected in the classroom. Well, that site team got together and talked about the solutions, people from every group, and they decided to come together. Cecily mentioned the hub of the community, is that school, and at the community center, they're now providing legal aid services around immigration on a regular basis so parents can understand what it is that they can do. And then the 7th grade English teachers got together, and those teachers created a unit on immigration. And students studied U.S. policy on immigration, on deportation, so they could not only relieve their anxiety, learn about it, and take agency to write soapbox speeches about how they felt, and learn about opportunities for civic engagement that they could go out and advocate for themselves and their families in the community. So we are only 2 years into this process, but we are learning that we must go intentionally slow to build the structures so that in the future we can go much faster, because we know that progress only travels at the speed of trust.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much, Grant. So, Kelly, you actually helped start the first community school in Iowa? Is that right? Wow. So tell us a little bit about that and what you believe has been the difference because you have a community school.
Thank you for that really great question, President Pringle. I'm going to give you a little background about Hoover Community School in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I teach kindergarten. We serve about 400 students. About 85% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. 90% of our students are students of color, and over 40% receive English language services. And the benefit of the community school model, I think the most powerful thing is what Emma alluded to before about the student needs assessment. It's all about empowering our student voices. Our students in kindergarten through 5th grade get the opportunity to tell us what they love about Hoover, what opportunities they would like to have at Hoover, and what would make Hoover the best schools. And they told us that they wanted more extracurricular activities. They want curriculum and books that reflect them, that look like them and their cultures. They told us that they wanted more recess time and air-conditioned hallways. And the nice thing about the survey, we've empowered their voices, so now we have to stop looking at our students as a simple test score and really focus on the whole child. So in response, we were able to get about $20,000 worth of diverse books for our library, which the students are so excited whenever the new books, we have a big celebration for when they arrive, and they're eager to get into those books to read about characters and places that they can relate to. We also were able to expand opportunities, so over 150 of our students, including some of our kindergartners, were able to participate in after-school or in-school extracurricular activities. We also, our student council has been incredible. The leadership role that they are taking on is just beyond imagination. They are planning activities. They are so proud when we hold our events that they have planned, and the Black History program that they planned and executed this past February was unbelievable. It was just incredible. It's also had a very positive impact on our staff. When I first started at Hoover, I was one of 9 new teachers. And since we've become a community school model, it is very rare that we ever have a staff member leave our school. If they leave, it's because they're either retiring, taking a promotion, or they've moved to somewhere else in Iowa or some other place to be closer to family. They aren't leaving to go teach at the most affluent school districts that are around us that have smaller class sizes and can better salaries. And also, the staff needs assessment allows us to advocate for what we need in order to best meet our students' needs. And so we have our building leadership team and committees that work together and use that staff assessment to identify issues that need to be resolved. And we are empowered to help find those solutions and implement them to make our school a better place. Our PLCs and our building leadership team, as well as our learning support teams, have really improved our emphasis on analyzing our instruction and our supports that we have in place for students, so that way they're more culturally responsive and really focusing on restorative practices. And so the progress that we have been making, the students are just, they feel welcome, they feel loved, they are making some amazing academic progress as well. So I have to say, as a classroom teacher, I'm not necessarily in a position where you think you can make a change so big in your school. But if you were like me, raise your hand if you've ever felt or you're feeling like you're tired of the spinning wheels of reform. You have, yeah, exactly. You're seeing a high mobility of students or high rates of absenteeism, low staff morale, a high turnover in staff. Because that was what we did. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is start researching community schools. Read about it. Watch videos. Share articles. Start having conversations with your colleagues, your staff, your parents, administrators, community members, and community partners. Because we know our public schools are under attack. And as Cecily said, community schools are the antidote to privatization, because when our communities are invested in our public schools, that support and trust, like Grant said, it's strengthened, and we get to be the heart of every community, because no one wants to leave their community schools, parents or staff, because we are a big family. And so it's just what we need to be doing for all students and families and communities.
Thank you so very much, Kelly. Yeah, I know. Give it up for Kelly. So, Mary, you've been listening to your colleagues, and you've heard all of the good things that are happening in community schools and why we should have them, why every school should be a community school. So NEA New Mexico has been thinking deeply about how to scale that, how to scale the work they've done. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're trying to do to scale it and why that's so important?
Yes, thank you, Becky. Community schools are important in New Mexico and scaling them, because the majority of our students in New Mexico are not from the dominant culture, and their experience in school has been many times one where their history, their culture, their language is not reflected in what they're doing in school. So by embracing the community school strategy, we can promote an approach that really does nurture a child's strengths, and we can be their champions like the student yesterday asked us to be. So if we get tired of being on that wheel of reform and want to be the champions that she asked us to be, this is the way to do it. So in 2019, well, both you and Lily visited Lynn Middle School. We had one community school that we started, and since then we scaled to 7, but the district has a commitment to every school in Las Cruces being a community school. I was also elected president in 2019. Are there any state presidents in the crowd? So when I became president, with the help of NEA, we were able to develop the NEA New Mexico Center for Community Schools and hired a director. And the director is part of a very small staff in New Mexico, but on the management team. And we have built out a program where it's a staff where we are considered the experts in community school. And we went from a state investment of $2 million in 2019. We're now currently at $10 million, and we are going slow. It isn't like the billions in California, but we are talking to people about braiding and blending funding so that the funding can last even after the grant program's finished, that they're grassroots. We went from one community school. We have over 100 community schools in New Mexico today, and we've advocated, yes, and we're very proud of that. And it's taken a lot of grassroots work, but we need everybody in this room to learn about this strategy and to fight for it. You know, it's not going to come in and something is not going to drop down from the sky. You have to learn about the strategy. I'm happy to talk to you about it anytime you want, or anybody up here, so that we can scale this strategy so that we can help a lot of students. Right now, my #1 student is our Secretary of Education in New Mexico, and I'm trying to teach him the importance of community schools and why our kids need for us to have community schools. I think the #1 reason why state affiliates should join our movement is because of the girl that was here yesterday speaking on this stage, that she has to take in her own laminated page to each of her teachers so that she can try to get her needs met. And that's a crazy world. I mean, we should know what that child needs and know how we can uplift her and help her to soar. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mary. And Nikki. So, wow, all of the schools where the students who are attending qualify, 70% of them qualify for free and reduced lunch, can get the funding to start a community school. So talk to us about the impact of that in your own district.
So under the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, the state has made a historic investment in our school, in community schools, because we really realize that we need a real solution to the challenges that we face every day in our public schools. At our local level, we had been advocating for years for community schools. However, it wasn't until the Blueprint that we were able to actually actualize and see this in place. And I'm just going to sit here and be honest that the impact has been almost immediately. I'll talk about one of my favorite, I say my favorite, but all of them are my favorite schools. Georgian Forest Elementary, Silver Spring, Maryland. It's an amazing school with amazing kids. And one unique attribute about this school is that 80% of the students live in one apartment complex. So that brings its own level of isolation and challenges to that particular community. And so they were identified in 21-22 to become a community school. Well, we all know what was happening in 21-22. We were still in the midst of a pandemic, and for this school, they had already spent more than half of the year, the school building itself was closed. This is a community in which, the school community in which 93% of the students identify as Black, African American, or Hispanic. 83% are eligible for free and reduced meals, and 40% have a limited English proficient, or identified as a limited English proficient. What the team decided was, just as everyone has spoken to, we don't know the answers. So we engaged in some deep canvassing. The system, along with our local association who's committed to this work, we went and canvassed. We went and did assessments, and I think one of the biggest things I have to elevate that my sister Cecily said is, it was about assets. It's not about what we have and what we bring, it's about what everyone has and what everyone brings to the community. And so in getting and doing that, we were able to engage with the parents. And so once the school buildings opened, we really had a sense of what we needed. But then we realized there were still some challenges. There was a lot of fear around safety and kids coming back into the schools. And so with the school team worked together. They actually went out to the apartment complex and they talked with parents. They talked with the community. They talked with partners they had, partners they wanted. They worked closely with the 3 employee union associations. They continued to get to find out what's needed. And from that, they then went back and designed. I think that's the key thing everyone's saying about that. We didn't have a cookie cutter model that we wanted. Our law actually said there were a few key things you had to have because of the state law, but we also recognized there were things that were needed within the community. So this resulted in a food pantry that serves over 554 families. But the plus to this is also the teachers are welcome to use it. And they talk about it in their classrooms like, hey, what did you use? How did your parents prepare? Or how did your family prepare the broccoli that we all had last week? Or just to make sure that kids see that we're all humanized and using these resources together. They created a diaper distribution. One of my favorite things is they have 2 wellness centers in which there's the students have one. And so they go and they check in and they say, I need to self-regulate. The behaviors have changed. Teachers are encouraged to go on a daily basis for 5 minutes to center themselves. Students are asking for mediation with their peers because they want to move past it. So we're talking about attendance going from 75 to 80%. To students, the grade levels are competing to have the highest attendance with 96% rates. I mean, this is just been so amazing. It's freed up teachers. Teachers were spending 30 to 40% of their time addressing behaviors and working through the challenges of absenteeism. Now they're spending that time building authentic relationships with their students and with the families and with the community within the school. I think one of the greatest things I think we all should be thinking about, and I think all of my colleagues have elevated, is that it's about the collective. And we all have a responsibility to do this together. And I know that NEA has amazing resources that they have available for us. We're all in touch with each other and engaging with each other. And we want you all to join us in this work as well.
Wow. NEA, give it up for these amazing panelists. Oh, my goodness. I hope you heard some of the key aspects of community schools that came out as our panelists talked. They talked about shared responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to make sure that our students have what they need and what they deserved. They talked about deep, sustained collaboration of all of the stakeholders, centering our students' voice, educators, our support staff, our administration, our parents, our community leaders. They talked about identifying the needs and having the community be part of identifying those needs. But as Cecily said, it's not just about that, right? It's about seeing our communities as assets. That makes the world of difference to students, that their community is seen as an asset. And then you heard some big numbers. I mean, we had a state invest billions of dollars into community schools, billions. So we do need investments in those community schools. And then, you know, as I turned from Grant and I went all the way over to Nikki, and I didn't necessarily introduce them that way, but you know, we are a room full of leaders. But I just was smiling. Can I just say I was just smiling and beaming with pride that we have local presidents and vice presidents, and we have state presidents and secretary treasurers, that we have, of course, our student who is sitting here with us, telling us her experience too. I'm so proud of this union in this moment. And that's why I just want to remind you, the work you do, I mean, this came from the work this Representative Assembly did to pass a policy statement that included in it recommendations to actually take action, And that's what you're seeing right now. Our NEA leaders stepping up and taking action. We want you to join us in a movement because, let me tell you something, don't tell everyone else. No, you tell everyone else. It is part of my master plan. Yeah, I'm taking over the world, so there's that. Did you hear about that? Yeah. And it is part of my master plan that every school will be a community school. NEA, can you help us get that done? Yes.